It has entered the third day after the city of Goma falls under M23 rebels backed by the Rwandan force. But as the day goes by, more and more revelations are coming out of regarding this conflict. Today, from a footage, we have witnessed that about 200 mercenaries from Europe, specifically from Romania, have been hired by the government of Felix Tshisekedi, the president of DRC, to fight against M23. Now, this footage have been shared by the Rwandan TV and also by AFP and others. This, of course, makes us to question many things, but it's better to check and see things as it goes by and try to be reasonable. Let's see. Look, this is the footage. Yeah, so this means it was really that bad. The military of DRC, that it was not equipped, that it has to hire foreign military. What happened seeking, what about seeking a help from Africa after chasing the Eastern African Community peacekeeping mission, and then, letting the SADC and still not enough, and hiring also European mercenaries? I mean, it has left me speechless, but I want to invite you to watch this video. Now, this military of these European mercenaries or the Romanian mercenaries are crossing the border of to Rwanda, from DRC to Rwanda, to go back to their country. They were in the city of Goma. Watch.
What is the experience in Goma?
Our experience. We were just working there as instructors for the army. So,
are you mercenaries?
Instructors.
No, instructors.
Instructors.
Yes, instructors.
Of course, you will not say
Where are you from?
Romania.
Romania.
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been in Goma?
Maybe 2 years.
2 years in Goma?
2 years or so.
How do you see Goma now last days? What's your memories in Goma last days?
Well, Goma is devastated because of the war, Because of all this happening, the war. And
as you go back home, what could be your message to your colleagues in Goma, people who have been working together last year?
I don't know, really. We are just relieved because we can go finally home.
How do you feel
Yes.
How do you feel at this particular moment? How do you feel?
Relief. It's a big relief.
So yeah, as you have seen, a number of actually 200 of them, Romanian private military fighters arriving in Rwanda and undergoing security checks and, bag checks after crossing from the DRC, from the city of Goma. Now, as Goma was on the verge of falling to Rwandan-backed M23 rebels or fighters. So these fighters were amongst those contracted to fight on the side of the Democratic Republic of Congo's army in its, years-long conflict with against M23 or the Rwandan-backed M23. He, as the man said, they have been there for 2 years only as instructors. Of course, he would not say that they are mercenaries, but definitely these are mercenaries. So, it just reminds me, if you have been following really the President Tshisekedi's talk in the past for more than a year, particularly after he won his second term, he was, he was kind of confused. He was aligning with the West on one side and then again coming out and supporting China and Russia and aligning with the global South, and then at one time supporting France, and then talking against France, against the West. And he was kind of all over. So he was all over except being in the continent, not seeking a solution from the continent. During that time, he fired the Eastern African Community Peacekeeping Mission, which DRC belongs to. He has fired also the International Peacekeeping Mission, the UN Peacekeeping Mission, but still they are there. They were supposed to leave term by term. So, but from the continent, he didn't really seek a solution. That was what was missing. Now that I think about it, and also, last time, of course, when President Lorenzo of Angola wanted to mediate the peace between Rwanda and DRC, he was on board, but Rwanda at that time was not on board. This was like a month ago, perhaps, because Rwanda insisted, or Paul Kagame insisted, Tshisekedi to talk with the leader of M23, and DRC said M23 is backed by Rwanda, so we should talk with the sponsor. So it's this is what happens really when you are not seeking a solution from the context. He could have gathered. I can imagine what could be the reasons from, why he was not seeking a solution from Eastern African Community, but this could have been, presented by also to the African Union, and also, those powerful actors in the region, like, maybe unilaterally with the South African government. A lot could have been done within the continent, instead of seeking a solution outside the continent. Now, historically also, now this seems the root of the cause seems different from what we all have been overwhelmed since Sunday night. This conflict escalated and the city of Goma fall under M23. Let us listen to this speech by the late president, the great Pan-African President Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, at that time, addressing the root cause of the eastern part of DRC. Listen what he has to say. Listen to this footage. Watch.
I'm going to talk to Zaire about Zaire.
At that time, of course, it was called Zaire, not Democratic Republic of Congo. In fact, it was one big country as Zaire before they divided, between DRC and then Democratic Republic of Congo, and then Republic of Congo before it came two countries. Listen.
I'm told passed some law which said the so-called Banyamulenge are not Zaire citizens anymore. This was a change. That first, at independence, they were regarded as, I think they were regarded as citizens. And then later, a new law was passed which denationalized them. The Banyamulenge are not immigrants to Zaire. They're not. My leaders met also in Nairobi on the 5th of this month to discuss Zaire. Of last month, to discuss Zaire. Of last month, to discuss Zaire. It was that meeting which asked the international community to establish a neutral military force to go into eastern Zaire to help aid agencies, to help the refugees, to reach the Rwanda refugees wherever they are and help them, but also to establish safe corridors and what the communique called temporary safe havens for the purpose of receiving refugees and help them to go back to Rwanda. My leaders believed that the most important job for the international community, for the multinational force, would be to help the refugees of Rwanda to go back. Because as long as they are in Zaire, there is a potential security problem between the two countries. So it's better to end that problem by helping the refugees to go back. But we knew what was happening. With the genuine refugees, you had the Interahamwe, the militia that had participated in the genocide, and the former army of the Rwanda government. They did not want the refugees to go back. They wanted them in Zaire. They prevented them from going to Zaire. So my leaders said, fine, we do want the refugees to return voluntarily. We don't want refugees to be forced to go back to Rwanda. Some may not want to go back to Rwanda. So they should not be forced to go back. But they must not be forced not to go back. And we cannot know whether they are making a free decision either to go or not to go until we separate them from the intimidators. So the multinational force should help the return of the refugees by helping to separate the intimidators from the genuine refugees. We are still debating that, I think.
It's going to be a long, cold winter.
We can discuss that a little bit later. But I want to point out, Your Excellencies, also the one important element in the communique of my leaders of Nairobi of the 5th of November. Our leaders, I refer to the Charter of the Organization of African Unity, non-interference in the internal affairs of another state. Why? Because there were the accusation, the possible accusation, there were accusations that it's just possible Zaire was using the presence of the Rwandese refugees to destabilize Rwanda. And Rwanda was responding by destabilizing Zaire in turn. And this, according to the charter, was wrong. So our leaders in that communique reminded themselves and the others concerned of that charter, the Charter of the Organization of African Unity, non-interference in the internal affairs of another state. But they reminded themselves also of another. The OAU, apart from the charter, has a resolution which I helped to move in Cairo in 1964. The borders of Africa are very artificial. Most African states are not natural entities. Like Tanganyika, they're a collection of tribes, and the borders don't make sense. Some of the borders are a straight line. Our former rulers took a straight line and argued where, say put it there, but move it back there, and they moved and moved. Those are the kind of borders we have, and they cut tribes in between. So in Tanzania, for instance, 60% of the Maasai, you have heard of the Maasai, 60% of the Maasai are in Tanzania, 40% are in Kenya. Our southern border, the majority of the Makonde are in Mozambique. But we have a large part of the Makonde in Tanzania. At present, we have on the border with Rwanda, we have 600,000 refugees or 650,000 refugees from Rwanda. But actually, they're among their own people. They've just crossed that invisible border there, and they are living with their own people on the other side of the border. And some of us felt, and I felt particularly, that those borders, although they're stupid, we must keep them. We must not try and play about with them and say disentangle them. Disentangling those borders would be a mess. Africa could just go into flame if we try. So I moved that resolution in Cairo, 1964. Please respect the borders which we inherit from colonialism. And that provision has been accepted ever since. It's questioned by very few. But although we have respected that declaration, and we have also respected the charter, non-interference, we have actually...
Hey, why does it seem so hard
ignored the fact that it's no use respecting the borders without respecting the people who are within those borders? We have paid scant respect to what happens to our own people within the countries in those borders. So sometimes we expel them, and recently in Zaire, now I'm going to talk to Zaire about Zaire. Zaire, I'm told, passed some law which said the so-called Banyamulenge are not Zaire citizens anymore. This was a change. That first, at independence, they were regarded as, citizens. And then later, a new law was passed which denationalized them. The Banyamulenge are not immigrants to Zaire. They're not. The kingdom of Rwanda was partitioned between the Germans and the Belgians. And the Belgians took a part of the kingdom of Rwanda, the traditional kingdom of Rwanda, with the people. So when we say respect that border, which was agreed between the Germans and the Belgians, we must also be saying respect the people whom you received under that partition. You can't turn around and say, we no longer want you. You are no longer citizens of our country. What are you going to do? Are you going to return them alone, or you return them with the piece of land? You can't say go home. Home where? We couldn't in Tanzania get fed up with the Maasai and say the Maasai go home to Kenya. Kenya is not their home. These are Maasai of Tanzania. And my friend Moi can't, for some reason or other, get fed up with the Maasai of Kenya and say go back to Tanzania. That it's not back to Tanzania. They've never been in Tanzania. They've always been there. Their country was partitioned between the British and the Germans. And part of them went to Dosho, East Africa, and part of them went to British East Africa. They are Kenyans. They're not Tanzanians. And our Maasai are not Kenyans. If we want them to live under the same flag, Kenya and Tanzania should federate. The only way we can put the Maasai under the same flag. So that's a problem in Zaire, this problem of the Banyamulenge. But finally, the political problems in Zaire did not start with the Banyamulenge. When did we hear about the Banyamulenge? I think 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Then I heard that the spokesman of the Banyamulenge is somebody called Kabila. But Kabila has been fighting the government of Zaire for the last 30 years. So there is the problem of the Banyamulenge, yes, but there is a purely political problem of Zaire, which will still remain when the problem of the Banyamulenge is over. When the refugees have gone back, when the problem of the refugees can go back, when the refugees have all returned to Rwanda, there is still going to be a problem of Zaire, partly that of the Banyamulenge, but partly a major problem in the country. You are too polite to say stop. Your Excellencies, thank you very much.
So there you have it, the late president of Tanzania, President Julius Nyerere, explaining the root cause of this problem, what is happening in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo, or the then Zaire, as was one country, both Republic of Congo and Democratic Republic of Congo. That was at the same time like this, around the summit of the African Union, or the then Organization of African Unity. So explaining it to the people there in the Organization of African Unity. I mean, my brothers and sisters, well, I'm sure this definitely have changed the perceptions that you see, that we all have been bombarded in the past 2-3 days regarding M23 and DRC. In all cases, we are not siding with Rwanda or M23 or Tshisekedi's administration in DRC, but what we're trying to promote here at Connect Africa is for them to seek the African solutions to African problems. There must be 1 or 2 or 3 African leaders that are Pan-African that can solve this problem. Yeah, Let us hear your comments or your views in the comment section. Sister Honorine, Sandra Mbongo, Sikaina Bugado, Romeo, Kigaftofa. Who else am I missing here? I am Kingdom, Farai, Manayanga. All of you, thank you very much for tuning in. Please share the video with others if you find it relevant or informative enough. Thank you all, and support us through our PayPal account and Buy Me a Coffee link. You can find it in the description section. I have also shared it in the chat section. Give it a like as well. Then that was it for now, but we will bring you more details, also inviting people from DRC as well. I will see you on the next one. It's a bye-bye for me for now. Ciao.